Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Let's Debrief podcast. I'm your host, Ashley, and today I'm going solo once again, but also how fun was it to have Shayla on last week? I that might have been our longest episode ever. There might be like a few in that like hour 20 like range, but it was a long one, and I'm so glad we did it though. It was so much fun. I feel like I could have her on every other week and she would have new stuff to talk about. She's just so fun and so entertaining. And so I hope you guys really enjoyed that episode. We had a lot of fun doing it. But yeah, and today we're going to be answering your homemaker questions. So I had, when I like put polls on like the Instagram a few weeks ago of like, what do you guys want to hear? What kind of episodes are you like looking for and everything? A lot of people responded and were like, I want to hear more about like how you make stuff from scratch. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I never really saw or felt like there was a want for that. And so I figured I'd dedicate a podcast episode to it. I might have said this last week, but before Shayla came over, I tried to record this episode. And I was just going to talk about it. But then like as I literally got like 10, maybe not even 10 minutes, like 7 minutes in. And I was just like, I don't know what people want to hear. I should just put up a question box and let them ask me questions. And then I can make an episode on that. So that made this a whole lot easier. I also felt like I didn't have any life updates really either. So it was just kind of stale. And like a few minutes in, I was just like, this is not it. And just walked away. And then obviously recorded a great episode with Shayla. So I was like, all right, Shayla's episode was supposed to come out this week. But just rolling with the punches over here and still trying to find our footing. I have said so many times, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to get ahead of it. And like, I'm going to record like back to back to back and I'm going to get ahead. Nope, it is still Tuesday, the day before this comes out. So, but at least you're getting like real-time life updates and, just biting commentary and information directly from my mouth into your ears like 12 hours later. So that's what we're doing. One day I'll get ahead maybe, but apparently this is not the month. And also like we're not traveling from March and April at all. And so I'm like, now is the time to get ahead because I've said this 1,000 times, but we're gone basically the entire month of May. There's only a few days that we're here between weddings and 2 weddings and then like a trip for fun and then like a trip for church. So just a lot going on. So I need to get ahead soon or else it's not going to be pretty. But thank you all for being here. I only have a few life updates. Okay, last night, I don't know if Jenna and I maybe talked about this a little bit, The Bachelor. So she got me back into The Bachelor through The Golden Bachelor, which was very entertaining, very interesting. And also, I don't know if anyone would agree with this. Jenna and I have talked about this a little bit. We both think that they got like new producers, like Gen Z producers, and who like just understand like, I don't know, like what this generation wants to see and hear because The Golden Bachelor was a great idea. Like they really saved the franchise. Also, if you are watching on YouTube or Spotify, I have a collection of cups over here, I'm aware, and I will drink from all of them. We got a Kelvin coffee because we needed more beans, so it was just an excuse to go there, get beans, get a coffee, smoothie, and water. And, especially as a single host, I'm like, I don't know when I'll sip on all of these because I have to take a deep pause or like a longer pause, but we'll figure it out. Anyways, and then the start of this season, when they were like showing and like highlighting different girls, like as they showed up to the mansion, we just thought like the poses and like the stuff that they were doing was so weird. And I was just like, I don't know, this feels weird. And Jen and I both were like, it feels like they got like new producers or like they chatted with somebody in the younger generation and got, I don't know, just like changed things up a bit. Okay, so anyways, like the last night was the Women Tell All, which I also thought it was the finale. And I was like, okay. And we were supposed to go over to Joe and Shayla's to watch it. And then my friend Joey, shout out to her, texted me and was like, Oprah has a special on and The Bachelor's not going to come on till 9. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then it's 2 hours long. I'm usually in bed by 9, falling asleep by 10 at the latest. So I sacrificed for Joey last night, and it was because on Tuesdays we get Farrah and like hang out with her for the day, and we have to get up like earlier than we usually would. So it's a slow morning. I'm also realizing as I've been maybe even like before I was a solo host, I don't get ready. I'm just like, I forget sometimes that I'm on video, so I'm just like, oh, whatever, I'll just sit down and start talking. You know what? I don't care. No makeup. The hair is ragged. We're in a sweat set that I was loaned from church. It's all good. Anyways, The Bachelor. So, spoilers ahead. Who do we think's gonna win? I've heard conflicting. I heard Reality Steve at one point said both of these women that are left. So, who's it gonna be? Again, spoiler, skip if you don't want to hear anything. I think it's going to be Kelsey A. I think their connection is very sweet and very, I don't know, it almost seems, this is going to sound like wrong, but I was going to say like childish or like teenager-ish. I just feel like they're really giddy about each other. And so I think it will be her. I couldn't believe like with the note debacle and how much it freaked him out that he was like, I just can't focus. I can't focus anymore. And I was like, okay. That was a little weird, but I have also never, I haven't watched The Bachelor that long. I have never seen a Bachelor so positively talked about than Joey. Every single woman at the Women's Tell-All last night was like, he is just a great guy. He's like such a stand-up guy. Anybody that's with him would be so lucky. I'm like, oh my gosh, like even though he literally broke all of these women's hearts, they're still obsessed with him. And I feel like that's very hard to do. So shout out to Joey. He genuinely does seem like a good guy. Also, I've been getting like Pilot Pete TikToks on my feed recently from his season. And the way his mother acted that season was crazy. And then also speaking of crazy, the Women's Tell-All was wild. Like they came out so hard against Leia, which I feel like I am Team Maria, of course, because it literally just seemed, honestly, let's all admit it, Maria is a very attractive girl, and I think everybody was jealous of her. And I think it's a very natural feeling, like, for women to feel, and especially when you're in that type of situation, you're literally competing. Like, sometimes, even if, like, you and this other girl have a crush on the same guy, like, you'll be like, oh, like, they're my competition, and, like, you can, I don't know, like, competition can, like, come up, and jealousy is, like, very easy to come up in those situations, and then anytime, like, they slip up or do anything, you're like, see, she's mean, she's rude, she's mean, and I feel like that's what everybody did. They saw, like, tiny opportunities to be like, Maria sucks, like, they saw that she had a really good connection with Joey, she's very hot, and she's very charismatic, very lovable. And yeah, they really just, and then I think, like, Leia got destroyed in the beginning. I could not believe, like, honestly, I was like, since I do love Maria, I was waiting for, like, people, like, all of the other girls to be like, no, Maria actually sucks just as bad as, like, everybody said. I was very interested to see what the women would say. And then for them all to be like, no, you guys are bullies. Like, how can you call yourself a girl's girl and throwing away that, or, like, burning that envelope, calling yourself a girl's girl, and then you're attacking Maria and asking Medina like why she's talking to Maria and like all of this different stuff. I was like, oh my gosh. But I thought it was very interesting, and we were texting with Joe and Shayla because we didn't end up going over since it was late, and I just thought all of the girls like knew that Maria has won in like the sight of public opinion, and they were like, we like have to just apologize. We have to put, like, literally, if we want any like hate to stop online, which it's like, I don't agree with going and commenting on like people's like Sydney or Leia's like feeds or anything and telling them they should die. Do not agree with that. Like, Yeah. So, like, obviously they've received so much hate, and I think that they were like, listen, we might not like her, and we might feel very justified in, like, what happened, but we just need to apologize and put this under the bridge because we will literally never survive. Like, we will have to delete our social medias, and, like, people are going to hate us forever if we don't squash this. And so I just thought, like, when Maria was sitting on the couch and they were, like, talking about it, I think Jesse maybe asked Maria about, like, her feud with Sydney, and then Sydney spoke up, and she was like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, and, like, maybe that was misconstrued. We definitely communicate, like, differently or whatever. I thought that she was just, like, panicked and was like, please forgive me, so this could all end. And then they squashed it, and they all hugged it out, and we love to see it. And I thought it gave us a lot of tea in the beginning, and then I was like, okay, finally, this is all done, like, squashed. But yeah, final two, Daisy and Kelsey A. So we'll have to see what happens next Monday. I'm sure I probably won't record next week's episode until Tuesday, so I can give my thoughts on who won. Okay, another life update is recently, I've just, like, been trying to eat more fruits and vegetables overall, and I was making our grocery order, and I saw oranges on there, and I was like, oh, I haven't had an orange in a long time. Like, I'll add oranges into the rotation. When I tell you, oh, sorry, you can hear my dog growling. When I tell you that these oranges from Aldi have single-handedly changed my life in the last week. It sounds extremely dramatic, I'm aware, but they are so delicious. Aldi only has, like, one of everything, so whatever. I think it's the navel oranges. They are so good. The flavor is so good, and it's actually been a very long time since I've had an orange, but I've been slicing them up with breakfast. I've been having a real all-American breakfast: sourdough toast, eggs with cottage cheese in them, give you that extra protein, and it's all cheesy, makes them fluffy. Bacon, hash brown, and the oranges. Oh, it's so good. Also, the hash browns, these are, like, I feel like in our health episode, Jenna and I, like, talked about, like, seed oils and everything. Like, I feel like for the most part, I don't have anything, like, really pre-made at all. And so my seed oil, like, intake is very low. But there are hash browns at Aldi that are literally, okay, here's the system. Sorry, I've gotten off my oranges tangent, but here's the breakfast system. You cook the bacon. And obviously what comes off of bacon is bacon grease. Then you put the hash browns. I do all of this in the same pan in a cast iron. Then you put the hash browns in the bacon grease and cook them up. Let them get nice and crispy. And then give them a little salt, little pepper. Take those out. And then you put the eggs in the pan. And usually there's still a little bit of bacon grease, or it's, like, oiled up a little. Oh, sorry for the pop. It's oiled up a little bit. And you put the eggs in there. And it won't stick to the pan for the most part. It might just here and there. And then you have your perfect breakfast. And Cole doesn't really like this method sometimes because he's like, well, by the time that you're sitting down, the bacon's cold. You could also throw the other stuff in at the last minute to kind of heat it up a little bit. But these hash browns from Aldi taste just like McDonald's, cooked in the bacon grease with a little bit of salt. They are so good. So good. But yeah, they're, like, processed in canola oil or something like that. But that's, like, the only thing I allow because it's so delicious, like, and very nostalgic. As I'm eating it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish this would last forever. Okay, so bacon, eggs, hash brown, sometimes toast if I'm feeling really hungry, and the oranges. And it's the perfect meal. I love breakfast. And most of the time when I wake up, I'm, like, ready to eat right away. But yeah, this is your sign to go buy some oranges this week because they are so good, specifically ones from Aldi. Also didn't realize how pricey oranges are. I get, like, 4 or 5 in a bag, and they were, like, $4 or $5.99. I was like, how am I getting avocados cheaper than that? Also, I posted this on my personal Instagram story. I might have actually said it on the podcast too, but if you put an avocado in your smoothie, it just makes it thicker. And if I've said that already, I'm sorry, but you don't taste it. It just makes it thicker. And you get all of like the benefits of an avocado. Sometimes avocados are hard for me to eat. It's like a texture thing. I go in and out, but we've been having like really good avocados recently. And so, but even like when they're just getting bad, just throw them in the smoothie and you get all the benefits from them and you don't taste them at all. And your smoothie tastes like a milkshake. Look at this thing. I don't even know if you can tell. She's a thickie. One second, let me take a sip. Delicious. Okay, that was my oranges thing. And then my last life update before we get into some of your questions is I had a really fun opportunity on Friday. I got to, backtrack a little bit. Obviously, everyone knows I work for a church. Sometimes, like, not worship teams, I don't know, like bands, like worship band, like Christian artists, thank you. I'm like, what's the word I'm looking for? Christian artists, Christian authors, like speakers will reach out to churches in different areas, and like when they're doing a tour, and ask like the church to host instead of going to like a stage AE, PG, PPG, stuff like that. And so our church honestly gets asked a lot just because we have a pretty decent sized building. And so we got asked to host Lisa TerKeurst. And for those of you who don't know who Lisa TerKeurst is, because like it's so funny, like Cole had no idea who she was. And she really is like really, really popular in like the women's Christian space. And so she's written a ton of books, like 30 plus books, and has just a really powerful story. And she also founded Proverbs 31 Ministries, if you've ever heard of that. But she's really cool, and I was excited for her to come and listen to her and everything. And they always are like, oh, like we need volunteers for this, like whatever. And I've done this in the past before for like different conferences that we've like hosted as a church. But they need runners. They need like 2 runners. And basically what the job of a runner is like the band the speaker and the production team they're all traveling by bus. Like they literally, like this tour I think only was like 12 days, and it might have been like 10 stops or something. And so it was like boom, 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 boom. Like it is fast. Like the night before they were somewhere in South Carolina, they drove through the night. And, like, they have bus drivers that, obviously drive them through the night. And then once they get here, the bus drivers go to a hotel and sleep the entire day. And then come back at 11:30 once, like, loadout is complete. And load up the bus and driving off to their next destination. And, like, everybody in, like, the tour sleeps, like, while they drive. That might not be common knowledge, but was just like, wow, like, this is, like, a system. Like, and there's a huge infrastructure for this. So I just thought it was very interesting. So anyways, they get here, the runners. And so they obviously don't have cars. They just have the bus, and they're not driving the bus like everywhere. And so they need like 2 people to kind of like run errands for them and like take them places if they need to run places. And so I volunteered for it because it sounded like fun, and I've kind of done it in the past. And so I was like, I like talking to people, and it's like, I just find it like, I find tour life very interesting. And so they get here, and I got to meet a lot of cool people. Another guy I don't know how to say his last name, but his name is Joel. He was like another speaker on like with Lisa, and he's on like Lisa's team. I got to take him and Lisa's assistant to the YMCA to get a little workout in and get a shower. They also don't have showers on the bus, so they will they will like book hotel rooms just so they can go and shower like at each location, which is just very interesting to me. And then like I also ran the bus drivers to a hotel so like they could sleep. And then eventually, this is where I spent most of the longest run, I guess I did, is I got to take Lisa TerKeurst to a hair appointment. So that was fun. When you're a runner, you don't really you just do whatever. So sometimes it's and another time I was just going and getting groceries for like the people on tour. I picked up like a sushi dinner for them and stuff. And so, you don't know if you're going to get to hang out with like the main speaker. And I was very excited that I got to. So I took her and her husband to her hair appointment, and then she was like, honestly, it's not going to take long, so like, why don't you just hang around the area? And I was like, all right, cool. Went to Oakmont Bakery and got a little Sammy, and it was delicious. If you go to Oakmont Bakery, they have a sandwich that I'm obsessed with. It's called the Gambino. And it's basically a caprese sandwich, I think, with like literally the biggest like chunk of salami that you've ever seen in your life, or like layer of salami and prosciutto. It's so good. But I got that also. While we're on the topic of Oakmont, they have an almond cake, and it is made without gluten, but technically not gluten-free because it's like cross-contaminated, so it's like you can't have it if you have celiacs, but celiac, if you're celiac, I don't know. But it is so heavenly. Cole, while I was there, was like, can you get me like a treat, like surprise me? And I saw that cake sitting there, and I was like, I'm gonna be needing that. And it was just like a little tiny thing, and so I grabbed it and we ate it, and it was so good. Also, another thing that's really good is their thumbprint cookies, and I will have to be staying away from Oakmont for a while because I could have that cake every single day. The cookies are delicious. So good. Anyways, so I went to the bakery while I waited on Lisa. Her husband called me. I came back and then dropped them off on a little lunch date and then ran some more errands. And yeah, it's a long day, but it was a fun day. And I just thought it was really cool that I got to hang out with Lisa Turkhurst for like 2 hours. And yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to add on that. That I think about does it for live updates. I know everyone's very excited. I've like teased this for so long. My parents come into town, not this Thursday, but next Thursday. And I'm so excited. And they will be here for a month because my sister is graduating college. And so they're coming in early. Like they were going to come like the 1st of April. And then I was like, it's Easter weekend, like March 29th, if you guys just want to come. And they were like, oh, well, that works out good. So they're coming early for Easter. And then, yeah, my sister graduates at the end of April. So they're coming to like kind of finalize all of the details, you know, all the moving abroad things. I was also thinking of having my sister on to talk about like, she's getting ready to go to Australia. And I'm not going with them because we have like weddings pretty close, but I am excited for them. They're going to have a really good time. My parents are dropping her off in Australia and then get to go. Okay. Oh, wait, I did talk about this on my episode with Ed, but if you didn't listen, we have to talk about credit cards at least once an episode. Credit card corner. If you didn't listen to my episode with Ed, you should definitely go back and listen. But my parents almost have, like, they're going on like I think it ends up being like 17-day trip. So I think they're doing 10 days in Australia and then 7 days in Fiji. Maybe 6 days in Fiji, I forget. But their flights to Australia were for free. For the two of them. I think they paid a little bit for my sister. But for the two of them, they were free. And then they're paying for an Airbnb in Australia. They paid for their flights, Australia to Fiji. But they are staying at a resort in Fiji. I think it's the Marriott Resort in Fiji for about $200. Nope, not $200 a night. $200 for the entire stay. Oh, excuse me. And that's just the power of credit cards. So their flights there, I think, were covered by Chase points, and then their hotel stay was covered by American Express. And this is actually crazy. My mom was telling me the other day that they're going for, like, because they're out that direction anyways, but it also the time frame falls on their 25th wedding anniversary. And so I'm very excited for them because they didn't get to have a honeymoon because they had a little baby, and 25 years later they're having their dream like honeymoon getaway trip and stuff. So I'm really excited for them. But my mom was telling me she called the resort and was like, oh, I wanted to make a spa reservation. And they were like, okay, like, have you looked at all of our packages? And she was like, well, can you like run them through for me just to be sure? Like, I think I know what I want, but just to be sure. And they're like, yeah, sure. And so like they told her like the one that she was looking at, and she was like, okay. And then they were like, and then there's like our premium like couples package where literally it's like a 60-minute massage, a facial, a foot massage, a hand massage. Like it was like 3 hours worth of actual treatments, I think. It was crazy. And then, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get like the price right exactly, but anyways, it was insane. It was like a fruits and charcuterie and champagne and access to like the plunge pool and the spa, like all of this different stuff. And she calls me one day and she was like, "You're never going to believe this." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "I went and called for spa reservations and told me like that about that package." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, what is it? Like $1,200?" Because especially they were looking for couple stuff. And she was like, "Ash, it's $600. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And she was like, "No." I think the lady on the phone said, and that is like apparently Fijian money is also a dollar sign, I think. I don't know if I have that correct, but apparently my mom said when she was looking at her, like the spa options, there was like a dollar sign. And so she was on the phone with the lady and she said, "And that is 1,200 Fijian dollars." And my mom was like, "Fijian?" And she was like, "Yes." And she was like, "Okay, give me one moment." And like went on like Google and was like Fijian dollar to like US dollar. And the conversion is like, it ends up coming out to $600. And I was like, that is insane. I feel like for everything that they're going to get for 2 people, that's the all-inclusive price. And so, especially since they didn't pay to stay there, they're splurging a little bit. And I just thought that was crazy. I'm like, we're all going to Fiji. We're all going to Fiji. When Cole and I eventually go visit Lou, because like she's going to be there for 2 years. And so we're planning a trip maybe for like next fall. So like this fall we're going to Europe, and then maybe like next fall we'll go see her, especially since the seasons are flipped. It'll be like nice there. And so yeah, we'll probably be doing the same thing of like go to Australia, go to Fiji, and like make our way back. But yeah, a lot of exciting things. It's about to get pretty chaotic here in the Zimmerman Eckberg household, but all good things. Like all of our family is coming, like both sets of grandparents, for Lou's graduation. And so it's going to be so much fun. I'm excited. And this is a good segue. I love to host. I love to make things for people. And so I'm really excited about hosting everybody and seeing how many meals I can make. We're going to have a big party for Lou as well. And so I'm excited to make food for that. And yeah, all good things. All right, let's get into your questions. Okay. So I don't even know if there's like a preface like I should give to this, but yeah, recently, maybe within the last, I feel like honestly when we started the podcast, I was like, oh, like, cause I'm getting into cooking, and that was like when Cole and I first got married. And so I was like, I don't know, I feel like I never super like was into cooking, like especially when I lived by myself. I was like, oh my gosh, I could heat up a chicken breast, like just like, I don't know, as things evolve, like as you get older and like you learn different things. And I feel like maybe I've said this before, but like I grew up in a household with 2 working parents, and so it was, and this is no shade whatsoever, because they were simply keeping their heads above water, but we were a frozen lasagna, hamburger helper, which hamburger helper still slaps, and I will stand on that. Yeah, so just like not a lot of homemade like foods and kind of just like prepared foods, which is totally fine. But when starting my homemaker journey, I was like, whoa. I told Cole this the other day. I was like, I remember actually when we got together too, we were like maybe walking through a store, and I was like, oh, brownie mix, like we should get that like to like make after dinner or something. And he was like you have everything to make brownies though. And I was like, yeah, but like I've never done that. Like, why don't we just make it with the mix? And he was like, I've never made anything with a mix before. And I was like, oh, okay. But his mom was very much make things from scratch, and I guess like more homemaker-y. And so that has been, it was just very funny as like our worlds came together, and I was like, I've never done that before. It's always been from the box, which is just so funny. Like I feel like sometimes like, because sorry, I'm getting like sidetracked. We had to make something from a bag recently because it was just easier. And I think like my whole life I was like, oh, I mean, it's easier and it's cheaper. No, it's not cheaper. Which like when we bought we had to make like a gluten-free brownie mix. And when we bought that, it was, especially because it was gluten-free and it was at Whole Foods, it was like $6. And I was like, that's actually crazy because you can buy a bag of flour for like $8 if you're getting like organic, like unbleached flour. So if you don't do like all of those things, like it can definitely be cheaper. But let's say it's $8. And then baking soda is like, I don't know, like $1.50. Sometimes all the even cheaper than that. Just like all of the ingredients, you might be spending like a one-time payment of like $20. And then you can make endless amounts of brownies with that. Like after you make brownies 5 times, you've already made more than the bag. So it probably is like ends up coming out to less than $20 too. And then sometimes you might have stuff already and like whatever. But honestly, like when getting into like the home cooking and stuff like that, it came from a place of like being intrigued by like slowing down and not like having to do like fast paced things, or it's like, oh, we're rushed and like, I guess I'll just like throw this together. But when it comes to like a frozen meal or something, also like as I'm talking about this, there is like no shade to anybody that eats differently than me, cooks differently than me. I think it's beautiful how so many different people put food on the table for their families. This is just what I do, and people have asked me. So as I'm saying, like, I just didn't want to make frozen meals. That is my preference. And if you feel differently, then I'm so happy for you. And I'm glad that it works for your family. But yeah, I'm just going to be talking about like what has become a passion for me. And so I'm trying to think. Honestly, also when I was working for a lady named Tori, and this is a shameless plug to Tori. She has a company, a brand called Make It Slow, where it's like all about slow living, all about getting back to like our roots and like ancestry, I guess. Like, I don't know. But you should go follow Make It Slow. There's great, like, one, their products are amazing. But also she's always posting like incredible inspiration. I'm gonna have her on the podcast soon. She just had a baby recently, so like getting like timing right is like, very hard, but I'm in talks with her about getting her on the podcast and talking like more about this. But honestly, she was a huge inspiration, and working for her and hearing her heart of and she's like a really good friend of mine, not just an old boss, but hearing her heart behind like the movement of slow living, I was like, oh, I actually really like this. So all of this really comes from a place of slow living. I really want to be good at cooking before I have kids. And like, I said to Cole literally like the minute we got married and we knew that we wanted to like wait a decent bit before having kids, I was like, I'm really going to take cooking seriously now, because once we have kids, I want to be able to be like, oh, I can throw chicken in the like oven with rice and veggies and it'll take 10 minutes. Like, and just have these recipes kind of like stashed in my brain. And so that's where a lot of this really came from. And also I've been like this is like feels against like homemakery, but like I just love finding multiple purposes and multiple uses for things. So that's where going to a thrift store, like I really enjoy thrifting, and like while it's like fun for like a style thing, I also love the like concept of like not buying things brand new. Like I could probably spend an entire podcast episode talking about the overconsumption that we have in the US. I feel like nobody is unaware of it. And it's especially just with with influencer culture, it is very much like, oh my gosh, like I'm trying to think of something like, what's like something that just like blew up. Like, okay, Summer Fridays, for instance. And I mean, I've fallen victim. I've fallen for it. And I'm like, okay, what's the deal about this lip gloss? But there is thousands of lip gloss brands out there. But then influencers are like, Summer Fridays, Summer Fridays, Summer Fridays. You need it. You need it. You need to spend $20+ on a lip gloss? I don't think so. I I don't think so. Obviously, like, products and like cosmetics and stuff like that is like different because it's like you're not going to get that from a thrift store. But I just think we're over consuming so much. And like, I even like talking with Jenna. So I've talked about this before of like the power of MacBid. And they have, especially if you are pregnant, if you have a friend that's pregnant, like MacBid is just good for so many different things. Or if you have tiny little needs around like the house, MacBid is great. And I always will check there before Amazon because you can bid like something so dumb as like we needed a hanger drying rack to go in the laundry room, and it was $30 on Amazon. I was like, oh, let's see if this is on MacBid. I want it for $9. So, and it's like, it might not seem like that big of a deal, but for me, that's like a big deal. And like, I'm like, if I can get it cheaper, I will. But as far as baby product stuff too, like there's a ton of high chairs, a ton of stroller systems, a ton of car seats. Like when we started watching Farah, I just didn't want to do like the back and forth with Joe and Shayla every single week. And so I was like, we'll get a base for our car, and then we'll just we'll just take one of the carriers from their car. And then when we give her back, she's in her carrier, and we give her back to Shayla. We took Shayla's carrier. But at least it wasn't like the moving of like the base every single time. I got that on MacBid for like $10, I think. And I don't know how much that is like on Amazon. Anyways, I'm rambling, but like this is where honestly my main motivations were to slow down and make sure that we are putting quality foods and we know where all of our food comes from and we're putting that in our body. And also just being smart with our money. A lot of this is very money motivated of like, we love to travel and we love like doing like, we love putting like putting money into savings. Like I love doing all of these things that where if I can save money in random places as like grocery shopping and buying stuff off of Amazon, then I'm going to do it. And so that's where all of this came from. That's my little rant, my little preface. But let's get into your questions. Let's see, did Cole... Okay. Cole was taking Farrah to the library, and I was like, did they make it to the library? Okay. First question is, please tell us in detail where you got the fat to make the tallow. So I think I talked about this on an episode. I did, because I think I ranted and I was like, it's just so crazy how much people can charge for like a whipped tallow cream. Okay. Here is what you're going to do. You will be shocked at how easy and how affordable this is. It will take time and it is a process. But again, I feel like when I hand make something or like something has taken a while, I just care so much more about it. And it's just fun to learn different things. And so get on TikTok and it will show you a step-by-step process of how to render your tallow. But you can reach out to, I hear my dog. You can reach out to your local butcher on Instagram or like call them or visit them and just ask if they have any extra fat. And that if you didn't know, that's what tallow is. It's just fat from the animal. And then there is like a process in rendering it. The place that I went to, the butcher that I went to is in Lawrenceville. It's called Fat Butcher. And I had DM'd them on Instagram and they said, hey, we have actually already rendered tallow for $4 for sale if you just want to grab that. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. So this time I did pay for convenience, but I paid $4. I got 2 of them, so I paid $8. And when you find out the investment that I had to put into it, you'll also see that it's worth it. Don't go selling out the Fat Butcher though, because I could have gate kept this. So, come on, don't go buying all my tallow. I guess that's only if you're local. But yeah, like you can go, like she said, like a step-by-step process. Look on TikTok of how to render your own tallow, and that, or even just online in general, because maybe TikTok is banned by the time this episode comes out. And then that'll show you like the whole process. but literally all you need is the beef fat, water, and salt. That is all you need, and maybe a bowl to pour it into. But what I did, so I got the rendered tallow already, it was cold when I got it, so I let it sit on the counter and let it soften, and then put it in the mixer. And everyone has like a different method, a different things that they add. But I just put it in the mixer and turned it on, had like the little whisk setting, like whisk attachment on there, and let it go crazy. And as it was like mixing it together, that's how it becomes whipped. And so I ended up adding just as much as I wanted to. I'm sorry, I didn't do any measurements. I've gotten to the point now where I'm just kind of like, that looks good. And so I added a few, I would say maybe 3 to 5 tablespoons of castor oil, which is also really nourishing for your skin. I've seen some people add, I don't know how to say it correctly, but it looks like jojoba oil. You know, it's like jojoba or something. Jojoba, I've seen people say. Oil, that is also apparently really good for you. And then you can add an essential oil of your choosing, or you can make it scent-free. And then I just let that all like mix together and then put it back in the container that it came in. And the container is probably like this. Actually, I think it says it's 8 ounces. Yeah. But it's like this big. And please, a little goes a long way. Don't go lathering yourself in it because you will feel gross, truly. So just do a little bit at a time. I gave tiny like jars to Jenna and Cole's mom, and they both were obsessed and said it was really nourishing and that they really liked it. And so, yeah, I liked the idea of like buying beef tallow, but literally I buy from a farm every single week, and there's another farm I go to that was also selling it. Both of them were $30, and I was like, I just cannot fathom, and it's this big. Granted, I probably spend that on skincare occasionally, but I don't know, there was just something about this where, again, a little does go a long way. So I paid $4 for 8 ounces that is going to last me a very long time. I'm thinking maybe this is going to be like every 6-month thing. Oh, I don't know what that was. So yeah, a little goes a long way. Hopefully that's helpful. If you are in the Pittsburgh area, just go to the Fat Butcher. They have some in the fridge. You don't even like have to ask anybody. You could just grab it and then take it up to the counter. Yeah, and then sometimes if you like reach out to a butcher, they'll just, oh, hello fly. They'll just give you the fat for free. So then this whole thing was free now, which was just crazy. So that is my tallow rant. Okay, so I don't really know if this is a question, but someone just said sourdough. And I'm like, what about it? Yeah, sourdough. So Jenna was actually the one that got into sourdough a few years ago, probably like 2021. And she bought the starter from Ballerina Farms. And honestly, Ballerina Farms, if you're looking for slow living and like good recipes and everything too, she's a great person to follow. She bought her starter, and then she gave some to me, and I made like a few loaves, and I dabbled a little bit. But then it's really like a fall winter activity. And then like once summer came, I just wasn't thinking about it, because it's just like when spring and summer comes, it's like, do I want my oven on 500 degrees? That sounds awful. I will probably try to continue sourdough through the summer, because it now is like, we don't buy bread from the store and I just make sourdough. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I love sourdough. It is, which my friend Hannah, shout out to Hannah, she listens, gave me the newest starter that I have. And she said, like, because I was like, oh, like, I'm nervous, like, whatever. And she was like, I think people take sourdough way too seriously. And it's actually, like, much more, like, resilient and flexible than we think. And I was like, honestly, you got a point. We, like, went to I had gotten it from her maybe just before we went to Florida in February, maybe. And I was stressed out. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be like a waste. Like, it's going to go bad. But every time we go out of town, I just put it in the fridge. And when we get back, I pull it back out and let it sit on the counter for a few hours. And then I feed it, and it's been bubbling like right back up. So sourdough, I just gave some to Shayla too. So she's going to start her journey. But yeah, my tips and advice is that it is more flexible and resilient than you would think. There's so many sourdough recipes out there that just find one that you vibe with, and it is a long process, but again, isn't that like the fun of it? And so like the other night I fed the starter at maybe 5-ish, and then maybe even earlier than that. I'm sorry, I'm trying to think, because Joe and Shayla came over, so I was trying to think of the timeline. Maybe I fed it at like 3, and then when you make most recipes, but sometimes you can do stuff with like the discard and everything, but when you make most recipes, they want like active starter. And so you'll feed it like maybe 2 hours, hour and a half before you need it, and then like make like the bread and everything. And so I made 2 loaves the other day, and it's just very, like I said, it's very interesting. You can kind of make it your own. For years I was following a recipe to a T, and I was like, oh, okay, like this is good, like whatever. But then recently I delayed like putting it in the oven and kept like shaping it and like forming it a little bit more. And the bacteria continued to, like, sourdough is bacteria if you didn't know that, but it's good bacteria for you. And so the bacteria continued to grow, and it smelled so good. And I was like, oh, okay, like maybe I've done, and you could also see it bubbling like on the bread, which feels like really weird. But as I kept like forming it, like little air pockets and bubbles were forming. And I was like, oh, okay, I like this. And so then I put it in the oven, and Joe and Shayla were over for dinner that night, and we devoured it. We ate it in 2 seconds because the flavor on it was so good. Like, it was just like really good sourdough flavor, and because it had that extra time to grow. And so I can post, like, I guess my process. I can post that on Instagram. But yeah, there's 1,000 sourdough recipes out there. I like making bread. I like making pizzas. I have done sourdough cinnamon rolls in the past. I haven't done them recently. The cinnamon rolls I currently make, like I usually do, are just like an instant yeast recipe. I've been dabbling and wanting to try crackers. I've seen a lot of people do sourdough discard crackers, and the discard is like not the active starter. It's like when you're taking stuff out, taking the discard out to make room for more starter. It does sound complicated, and like feeding the starter, and getting it active is a process, but I promise you'll get it. I promise. And if you are dedicated to it, you can make really good bread and really good recipes, and sourdough is really good for your gut. And I even have a friend, I've talked about her before. Katie is gluten-free, and she can eat my sourdough. Oh, bagels. I love making sourdough bagels too. She can eat my sourdough bread and bagels, and it doesn't hurt her stomach at all, and like doesn't let her have a reaction. So it's really good for you. And yeah, that's what I have to say about sourdough. Drop your favorite recipe. Ooh. Drop my favorite recipe. I'm trying to okay, I mean, honestly, it's just like Cole and I love eating steak because like the vitamins and like and nutrients from red meat is like really good for you. And it's also just like a really easy meal because it's like usually it's like steak, potatoes, and a veggie. We had steak last night, and we did 2 New York strip steaks. I had bone broth rice already prepared, so we had a side of that topped with avocado. And was there something else? I'm trying to remember. That might have been it. And then my bread was in the oven, so then we had bread after too. I can drop my steak recipe, and last night might have been the best steak that I ever made. It was so good. But also I've gotten into homemade pasta, and that is also just flour and eggs. And if you have like a KitchenAid, it makes it so much easier. And then if you have the KitchenAid like pasta attachment, even easier. Like, it is a long process, but again, it's like when Joe and Shayla came over last week, I pre-made we did meatballs too. I pre-made the meatballs, like pre-rolled them, and then pre-made the dough. So then the night of, all I had to do was like flatten it, and like make the noodles. Honestly, homemade noodles have probably been my favorite recently. It's been quite delicious, and they just taste wonderful. I'm trying to think. I think someone asked me later down the line, and I'll kind of share that one now. One of my favorite vegetarian recipes. Like I said, we're trying to up like our veggie intake overall. I'm just not particularly good at it. Just like having veggies, like fruit is much more easier for me, but vegetables are sometimes hard. And so I've just been trying to think of ways to like sneak it in there. And again, for kids down the line, this is a great meal to sneak in some veggies. I like roasting butternut squash and making the pasta and the noodles, or like making the homemade noodles. And then roasting the butternut squash and then taking it out of the oven and making it into the pasta sauce. Butternut squash is so sweet, but then you put like some Italian seasoning in there and some heavy cream to make like thicken it up. It is pretty good. It's really, really good. And it's like a nice balance of like sweet and savory. So that is one of my favorite recipes in like sneaking some veggies in, because it just tastes like not like a regular sauce, but it's just like, oh, it's just pasta sauce, but it's actually a whole butternut squash. So that is definitely my favorite vegetarian recipe at the moment. I'm trying to think. I like sheet pan meals, and I see a lot of TikToks of like easy like sheet pan like 30-minute meals for the busy mom. And I've talked about her before, but Half Baked Harvest has a lot of good recipes, and that's where I really started like my cooking journey. I just feel like I was always very intimidated by cooking, and it was like, if it was like, you need this and you need like this seasoning and this specific cream, like I've also just like I've gotten better at it now that I'm like, I don't need that. Like, seasoning's on that. I'm not going to the store just to get that seasoning. And so I just think it's fun to kind of follow a recipe sometimes and then like make it your own. I feel like I did that with something recently. Oh, honestly, the pasta night that we had last week, it was last Tuesday actually, made the meatballs. Like I just had ground beef, made and like put whatever seasoning I wanted in them, rolled those up. And then fried them in the cast iron just with some avocado oil. And then I was making pasta at the same time. Okay, this is actually a good segue into a topic. We, as Americans, I don't know, I'm assuming it's different in other countries. We have, as Americans, have been sold a lie that you need like every like jar of something. And we had pasta and pizza. So like we did pasta one night, and then the following night I did like a sourdough pizza. And so we did 2 tomato-based things back to back. And instead of buying a jar of pasta sauce and like pizza sauce, I was like, oh, maybe I could just get like a can of diced tomatoes. Excuse me. A can of diced tomatoes for $1.50, and maybe it'll work for both things. And it did exactly that. It was so good. So I kind of made like a vodka sauce. It was like a creamy red sauce for the pasta. I'm trying to remember. I don't know if I heated up I don't think I heated up the tomatoes at all with the pasta. So I just poured it into the blender and then put a dash of cream in there. And then I think some like Italian seasoning or something. Mixed that up until I felt like it tasted. And so like I blended it like there wasn't any tomato chunks left or anything. I thought, and then put it like tasted it until I thought it was good. Then I put it in with the meatballs to kind of pull the savory like juices from the meatballs as well, and to kind of like mix that all together. And it had rave reviews. I thought it was really good, and Joe absolutely demolished his entire plate of pasta. that meal last week I was really proud of. It was the really good sourdough, and I had made everything from scratch. Uh, the only thing that I didn't make from scratch was, I bought the meat, or bought the ground beef from the store, and then I didn't grow the tomatoes. I bought the can of tomatoes, which that is a goal one day now. I'm going to work on my garden next. But yeah, and then the next night I was just like, okay, like I'll see like what's left of this like tomato sauce or whatever. Or I use just like the diced tomatoes. Poured it on the pizza, tasted exactly how you would want it to, of just like a marinara pizza. And I was like, this is like crazy to me, because like there are these companies getting away with selling what's not the ragu, it's like the RAO brand, Rayo, which apparently they like, it's clean ingredients. So I looked at their ingredients. You know what it is? Crushed tomatoes, and Italian seasoning, garlic, like all of the things that avocado or olive oil, like clean ingredients. Oh, but it's $8, and you have all of those things in your pantry already. Or you can go buy the crushed tomatoes for $1.50. So again, we're being smart, ladies. We're gonna buy the can of tomatoes, and we're gonna make pasta and pizza in the same week. So that, again, just like money saving things, that's where a lot of this has stemmed from. Okay, that was my favorite. Ways to get creative with sourdough. You can make crackers, you can make cinnamon rolls, obviously you can make bread, bagels. I love the bagels. The bagels are so good. I'm trying to think. Cookies. I don't know if you can make muffins. You might be able to, but I've heard really good things about sourdough discard chocolate chip cookies. So you can get extremely creative. Okay, this is a good based off of what I was just ranting about. How do you budget for food? Do you bulk buy ingredients? Also, do you meal plan for the week? Starting to get into cooking and baking and want to be smart with what I buy / how I buy. So that is a great question. How do I budget for food? Food is probably, like in groceries, is what we spend the most amount of money on. Like we have, maybe our car payment is pretty high, but our food is like right there. And again, like we don't pay for housing. Let me get some water real quick. So sorry, stand by. Okay. We don't pay for housing, and we drive one car, like we share a car, and we don't buy a lot of brand new clothes. Like, so food is like, we pay a lot for food, but it's a huge priority to us. I was talking about this with Joe and Shayla recently, because for a while we shopped like exclusively at Whole Foods, and shopping at Whole Foods is fun because when it comes to like these weird recipes, they have like all of these random weird ingredients. Like, I remember one recipe I made needed, I'm fearful of saying it wrong, like gochujang sauce. And I've never heard of that. You think Aldi's gonna have that? No. And it's like, of course, Whole Foods has that. And so I used to place pickup orders with Whole Foods, and it was just a lot. Like it really was like $90 a week just on Whole Foods. And we didn't buy our meat from there. And then also like we were buying like raw milk outside of that too. So it was pretty expensive. And just more recent, we live right down the street from an Aldi. And so I didn't grow up with Aldi's at all. Like there was none in our area. And so I was very unfamiliar with it, like when I moved here. But I quickly was like, oh my gosh, like this place is really affordable, and like they have a lot of great stuff. And so more recently, in like the last like maybe 3 to 4 months, we shop almost exclusively at Aldi, as it goes for like big stores. And then we get like some meat when it's on sale from the farm. Like the farm I've talked about before, it's called like the Family Cow. And we get our milk and eggs from there. And because we do love supporting like farmers and just like people that we know, I've done like photo work for a family local in like the Pittsburgh area. They're based out of Apollo, but they do chicken, and that's like one, I guess, like their specialty, but they're constantly adding like new products and everything. But that's Heel Farms. We love supporting them. Like I said, if you go to their website, I took their photos. So I love supporting friends like that too. And so we get our chicken from there, and I honestly will I'll do like a bigger like bulk order, like just as we don't really like blaze through chicken like that quickly. And so as I just see that we're running low, I'm like, oh, okay, like I should place an order. So yeah, we do Heel and then almost weekly farm pickups, and like even this week it was just going to be like eggs and milk, and sometimes it's like semi inconvenient to go to Swissvale at that pickup on a Thursday if like it's in the middle of the work, not in the middle, but it's like 10 a.m. And so this week I was like, we don't really need anything outside of the basics, so let's just run to the East End Food Co-op, and we did that this morning to get more milk and eggs. But on like a week-to-week basis, I plan out our meals, and I don't know if this is like a hack, but it works for Cole and I put our, what I'm planning for each meal, in our shared calendar. And, just because not like Cole is just always like very curious of like and I'm passionate about cooking. He even said the other day, he was like, I used to cook for myself all the time, and like I just don't have to anymore, and I kind of miss it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I should let you cook. Like I should let you cook. I am just very passionate about it, and I'm always trying to experiment with new things, and so he really just lets me run with it. And then honestly, he tags in for dessert, and he's a king. I feel like everybody already knows that, but he never lets me do the dishes. He always comes behind me and does the dishes, and then maybe like an hour or two later, if we're in need, he will be the dessert king. But I like making like Nestle Toll House chocolate chip cookie recipe is the most goated recipe. You don't need to look anywhere else. I made some last week and they were delicious. But I like making a huge batch and then baking only a dozen for like that time, and then putting the rest of the dough, I like rolling it and putting it in a bag and putting it in the freezer so that you can just pull it out whenever you need it. If you have guests over, then you're like, oh, we can have cookies ready. Another little hack. But all of like the budgeting and like the money saving like things really stemmed from, I've talked about her before, and her name's Kate, I think. But this girl on TikTok, she was like, I have 4 kids, and here's how like I keep our grocery bill down by making stuff from scratch. And you would just be amazed at the things that you are capable of and that you can make from scratch. Like bread is one of those things. And someone asked for like a simple bread recipe. My friend Natalie sent me a very simple bread recipe where it's literally like yeast, flour, water, maybe some salt, and you just mix it together, let it rise, and then put it in the oven. And it's not like sourdough is just definitely much more temperamental, but it does have that good bacteria. But if you are just and there's sandwich bread recipes out there too. You can also do sourdough sandwich bread, which I also want to do. But I was going to say conspiracy theory. I don't think it's really a conspiracy anymore, but there's just no denying that like what you make in your home is going with like ingredients that you handpick is going to be better than what you get in the store, or you could pay a very pretty penny for high quality ingredients like from Whole Foods in like whatever, like these like health stores, and like what you're going to get eating out. Like Cole and I have really, really cut down on eating out, and I'm really proud of us because what you eat in your home automatically becomes healthier. Hopefully, if you're making like healthy decisions, automatically becomes healthier than what you're getting in the store, or at restaurants. And then like obviously that can come with the choices that you make at restaurants. And so it's just crazy like how like I spent $50 on groceries this week at Aldi and just kind of picking up essentials. And that's also with organic fruit too, which is like, I don't know. I just feel like it's like expensive at like Whole Foods and stuff, but occasionally Aldi will have organic fruit. What was I going where? Oh, and it's just crazy that like even Cole and I like are eating out like once a week is typically Chick-fil-A on Wednesdays. It's just been like a habit or like something that we do as like a team at church for years now. And so that's our eating out, and we spend $20, and that's half of our grocery budget that we spent for the week. And it's just crazy, like how much more affordable it is to eat at home. And so my budgeting tips, honestly, if there's an Aldi near you, check that out. I also recently like went to the co-op for, I think, just milk and like just the basics, and I'll do like a once over, and sometimes even like the milk, if it's going to be going like out of its shelf life in the next few days, like they'll have it half price. I'll just grab a ton of half gallons, and we have a deep freezer, so like it makes it easier to store stuff, but like more quantities of stuff, but I'll just grab a bunch of those and then put them in the freezer. And then when like they're going to, or like once we're done with the other one, we just unfreeze it and have ourselves a glass of milk. So like I like walking through health stores still and like scoping out stuff that's been marked down, like they need to get rid of. There was ground beef a few weeks ago at the co-op that was originally $10, and it's like grass-fed, blah, 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 blah. And it was on sale for $4.99, and I was like, don't mind if I do. So I grabbed like 6 of those and put those in our freezer, and I only defrost them like the night that we're going to use them. And so those are like some tips and tricks. Also, Aldi has great meat. Like if you do consume meat, like their ground beef, grass-fed, grass-finished option is $5.80, I think. Like that's not bad. And honestly, we have cut back on what we buy from the farm because it's like we love steak and we can't be out here buying $25 steaks. Like, but sometimes the farm will do like, if you buy like we got shaved steak a couple weeks ago to kind of make like Philly cheesesteaks. It was on sale like at the farm, and I was just like, sure, like that sounds good. So like I'll make splurges when there are like sales like that, but be looking out for just stuff marked down, stuff on sale. And if you do have space in your freezer, then fill that baby up, because I'm not trying to go to the store every single week. Like it's nice knowing that you just have stuff to grab from. I've heard incredible things about Costco. I don't have a Costco membership. I would love to have one. But I've heard that they have really great option as well as far as like grass-fed and everything. But week to week we go to Aldi, and this might be a hot topic, but I don't really follow a budget specifically, but I am smart. Like I said, like with the pasta and the pizza and the tomatoes, like, and I knew that we were going to make more this week. And also I just like having stuff on hand. So like once I use the tomatoes, like in my next grocery order, I was like, we might not be making that this week, but it's nice to know I have tomatoes on hand. So I'll get another thing of that. And there's like the basics that we go through every week of like fruits and veggies and stuff like that. Lord knows I need more oranges. I have I bought 2 things of oranges this week because I was like, I need some. Hopefully that all made sense. That is what we're currently doing. And again, just being smart and being creative and being resourceful outside of cooking too. There's stuff that you can do in cooking that can also lead to other things around your house. Like I love having lemons on hand because they're fun to add to recipes, but then also if they're like what's like the word? They're acidic. So it's like a natural cleaner as well. So if I squeeze a lemon into like a meal, and then I'll rub some baking soda on our cutting boards and use the lemon to scrub it because that helps fight bacteria. And then I'll throw it in the garbage disposal and grind it up because then it makes it smell good. So it's like multiple things like that. Also, I made this week a orange peel cleaner, and I just remember seeing it and I was like, oh, I should try that. Took orange peels from 2 oranges and put them in a bottle. We also reuse all of our bottles too. I would hold on to every single one of them, and Cole sometimes gets mad at me because he's like, we don't have space. I'm like, we always have space. And put them in a bottle and covered them in vinegar, and you just put it in a dark place, I think the recipe said, for a few weeks. And then you have a countertop cleaner, all natural countertop cleaner. I think it might actually be good for glass too. So we're saving money, we're being resourceful, we're reducing, reusing, recycling, all of the things, okay? And I also haven't talked about it yet, but bone broth too. I've talked about that in a previous episode, but that is another huge, huge money saving tip. Just make your own bone broth. Look up recipes. Okay. Current recipe fixation. Please share your favorite recipes with us. I mean, it's all, yeah. Oh, we always are making steak. Let's see here. I'll even read you what's on the calendar for this week so you can know what we're making this week. Okay, last night we had steak. Today I was gonna make a I called it protein pasta. But some lovely friends are coming over, so I'm gonna pivot and we're going to make sourdough pizzas because I just feel like that's a fun group activity. So we're gonna make that for dinner tonight. But a protein pasta. At Aldi they have chickpea pasta, and it's gluten-free, and chickpeas have a lot of protein in them. I had no idea. So like a box of this pasta is like an insane amount of protein. And so we're just going to make that pasta. Probably is going to we have like leftover sauce from last week. So use the rest of the sauce, and I might not do a meat. So that might be a little vegetarian meal. If you're a vegetarian and you're looking for extra protein, chickpea pasta. It's really good. It tastes exactly the same, and it is good for you. Salmon and rice is Wednesday. I got this huge thing of salmon from the farm. It was on sale, and we'll cook that up. I need to up my omega-3s and just be having more fish in general, so salmon will help me do that. And then I made a huge thing of bone broth rice last week, or like over the weekend, and so it gave me a lot of rice, and so I needed to use some of that up. So I'll probably do salmon, rice, and avocado in like a bowl, maybe like a spicy mayo of some kind too. And then Thursday is protein burgers. So we have some ground beef. I'll make up some patties, which honestly I should have got lettuce from the store, but I've been kind of like doing like a lettuce, like a salad, and like throw the ground beef on top of it, and then add like whatever toppings. Like sometimes like I do try to like reduce our like carb intake or like our just like flour intake overall. I don't know how a sourdough burger would taste, or maybe I could make our own buns. That could be good. But that's what Thursday is. Friday is just leftovers, but like last week, what did I make? Made sourdough pizza, made pasta with meatballs, and then and steak on Monday. Apparently Monday is steak day. But those are some of the things that are in the rotation right now. Again, like I like getting creative, but then also keeping things simple. Like I liked making the bone broth rice over the weekend because I was like, oh, like this will be nice to just like have on hand. And then when you have like a protein or even a veggie, you're just like, oh, okay, like I can just like scramble this up with some rice. I just think rice is very versatile and good for like a lot of different recipes. And so, another thing that I haven't talked about, as like money saving tips, I'm going long. Money saving tips is buying from this place. It's called Azure, Azure, A-Z-U-R-E. I think that's A-Z-U-R-E. Look that up online. You can buy a lot of stuff in bulk from them. I recently bought from them. I got a 25-pound bag of flour, and so far, so good. And it was $30. And it was unbleached and organic, which in Whole Foods, a 5-pound bag is typically like $9. So what is that? Like five. So to get, a 5-pound bag, so, and then it was 25. So that would just be like 9 times 25. So I basically saved $15 by buying it like in bulk. And then I bought a bunch of other stuff in bulk, which I need to, maybe I should do this for a meal this week. I need to use some. I got some black beans. I got some rice, just like the everything, not everything, but I think most of their stuff, like, and you can pick stuff that's organic. And so it's nice just having that kind of stuff like on hand. I bought some Epsom salts. I think I spent $100 and I got a lot of stuff, like, and that's where I got my salt stick from. But you can also get it on Amazon or something. So I got a lot of different stuff from there. The pickup and the retrieval situation is very interesting. So just go on and look for yourself if that's something you're interested in. A lot of people ask for recipes. It's so funny. Okay. What would you recommend is the easiest thing to start making from scratch? What is your own personal favorite thing to make? Okay, so definitely my friend Natalie's bread recipe. I will post that on our stories, and you can screenshot it, and maybe I'll make a whole highlight about like Homemaker and like home cooking and stuff. Honestly, right now I'm really obsessed with cinnamon rolls. The cinnamon rolls are so delicious to make from scratch. It is a process. If you're going to make them morning of, like a Christmas morning, you're going to be needing to get, and you have children, you're going to need to get up at like 5 a.m. and start this, because the dough needs to sit and proof for an hour, and then you need to take it out and you need to roll it. And then once they're in their rolls, they need to proof for another like 45 minutes, and then they need to go in the oven and they need to bake for another 30 minutes. Like, it's a long process, but it's so worth it. And then I'll post the cinnamon roll recipe. This recipe is like with a cream cheese frosting. Oof, they taste just like Cinnabon. They're so good. So that's definitely one of my obsessions right now. Honestly, I really do love making sourdough. I do love the process, and I like doing the stretch and folds, and then like there's just like that, since it takes so long, there is like a sense of reward to it. I love making bagels. Another long process. Basically, the sourdough bagel recipe I follow is the same as a sourdough bread recipe, except you make it into the little balls and you put them in a boiling bath of hot water, and it has baking soda in it. And that, I don't know what that does. Like, I don't know what that does in it, but then you put that in it, they'll float to the top, you take them out, bake them in the oven. So it's just like that one extra step, but I really do love making the bagels. Next on my list is probably English muffins that I'll try. I just feel like, I don't know if anyone else felt like this, like as a kid, that all of these things felt so hard and like unattainable. But if it would be my goal for all of you is to reassure you that it's really not as hard as you think. You just have to get past that thought like in your head. And once you get through it, you're just like, oh, okay. Like, you're right. It isn't that bad. Or like, or it was really hard, but it was really rewarding. Another thing I also like making is tortillas. Oh, hello? That was scary. Another thing I like making is tortillas. It's just flour, water, and olive oil. Maybe some salt. I don't remember exactly. Yeah, I think some salt. And it's like, they're so tasty and so delicious and so much better than store-bought. But in my mind, I'm like, that is the hardest thing ever. And it's like, no, you can do it, bestie. You can do it. Okay. While we're on like sourdough, she said sourdough bread from scratch and also favorite things to make with the KitchenAid mixer. I just got one. Congratulations. I love my KitchenAid. It's the best. I don't know if I said this on the podcast, but we actually upgraded recently. We bought one when we got married. Like when you make your registry, it was on our registry, nobody bought it. And then when you make your registry, honestly throw whatever on your registry, because then they give you a coupon to buy those things after the fact. And then we also got married right before an Amazon Prime Day. And so our KitchenAid was like so cheap because of all of those factors. But we got a new one recently because Cole was very sweet and got me a bread, Dutch oven essentially, but it also is a mixing bowl, for the KitchenAid. But he bought it. Our KitchenAid was the mini, and so there wasn't a lot of things that were made for it. So he got the wrong size, and we've been kind of wanting the bigger one anyways. I was really wanting the ice cream attachment too. And so we had Amazon rewards, and so we just ended up redeeming for a bigger KitchenAid. So if you are in the market and you need a mini KitchenAid, we are selling ours. I should post about it again. It's very cute, but congrats on the KitchenAid. Favorite things to make. I make so much with the KitchenAid. I love the pasta attachment to make pasta. Recently got the ice cream maker. That was on sale at Target and Amazon last time I checked. I got that by redeeming Target rewards, so it was like $30. Like, again, we're saving rewards and we're being smart. So recently my obsession has been ice cream. Homemade ice cream is so delicious. It's so good. And Cole has like been making cookies and brownies and or we've been doing affogatos with it, which is espresso over the top of ice cream. It's just been so delicious. So, if you have the dough attachment, just making bread just became very easy for you. I guess maybe I'll film, maybe I'll do some sourdough tonight and I'll film a whole video for you guys because a lot of people just are like, sourdough. You can go online and Google a sourdough recipe and it will really benefit you and it will be great. I can also show you what I do too. Okay, this will be the last question. Where do you even start when you're a broke college student who thinks making ramen in the microwave is cooking? That is very fair. I've been broke, but I have not been a college student. So I'm trying to think back. Like, I remember when I lived by myself and what I did. Honestly, like I said, depending on your situation, I love going to Aldi, obviously, but they do have really still high quality pre-made things. And so instead of heating up ramen, let's heat up the 90-second quinoa rice mixture, which is all organic, and good for in fiber, high in fiber. So wait, what was your question exactly? Where do you even start? Okay. I just think it's simple. I don't know. There's only so much that you can do. If you are in a dorm, then it's hard. But if you I think the kind of simple things I was talking about earlier, okay, I'm going to assume maybe you're in a studio apartment and you have an oven and you have a stovetop. Maybe that's naive, but that's what I'm going to go off of. Even the things that I was talking about earlier, and there are multiple people that have posted videos of here's how far $50 is going to take me at shopping at Trader Joe's for this week, and how I'm going to make my meals versatile. I think when I get it a pack of chicken, I personally love shredding it up, and so putting it in the crock pot, letting it go for 8 hours with some seasonings and some some broth. And then I just having that for the week. And then I also having rice on hand. And so, right there, it's kind of boring, but it also is versatile. You have chicken and you have rice. And depending on where you're shopping at, if you're buying organic and everything, that could be a $5 meal. Like I said, too, if you're really only going with a microwave, the 90-second quinoa packets are great to have on hand as well, and just rip the top, and those are healthy for you. Throw some avocado on it. But it is funny saying oh, I'm a broke college student, because all the things that I do are money saving things. And so it's I think personally I'm buy the $30 bag of flour, the bulk flour, or just stock up on some flour and get creative. This has genuinely become a hobby for me, and it's a way for me to put my phone down. And I just think being in the kitchen is very fun. And so kind of getting to experiment of okay, how far can this $5 bag of flour take me? Honestly, if you have flour, water, salt, and oil, and then sometimes butter, you can make a lot of things, and you can get very creative. Alone with some of the recipes, sourdough recipes, you can make hamburger buns, you can make bread, you can make tortillas, and there you've probably just saved yourself $15. And so I know, like, especially in college, it's like, I don't have the time. And that's definitely very valid and fair. I have like a flexible schedule, so I do have the time. And or if you have kids and stuff. But even like the other day, like I think like if you do have like older kids or younger kids, whatever, getting them involved is very fun. And I feel like I'm really excited to teach our future kids about like this stuff because it's a way to get them involved in like the food that they're eating. Joe and Shayla were over the other night, and Ellie saw me like folding sourdough, and she was like, "What are you doing, Aunt Eki?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm folding sourdough. Like it's gonna become bread." And she was like, "I want to help." And I was like, "Of course you can help. Go wash your hands and like you can help." And she loved it. She kept like, and she's 8 years old, and she just kept like folding it for me, and she was actually doing like a really good job. So then you don't even have to do it yourself. But maybe this might be naive because I know kids make like can make things harder and it take longer, but now you have a bonding experience, you're making your own food, and it's just like a fun activity for everyone to do. I have ranted so much longer than I anticipated. I truly am very passionate about this subject, and I just think that, again, it's a fun hobby. It's a way to save money. It's a way to control what's going into your food, and not just like even like something small as tortillas. And like obviously we can read ingredients labels, and sometimes there's just extra unnecessary things when literally what it takes to make a tortilla is 4 simple ingredients that you already have in your house. And I just think I'm honestly excited for all of you. I just think if you are passionate about these things too, I want to hear about it. I want to hear what you guys are making. I'm going to post a highlight of like some of my favorite recipes for you guys to grab stuff from. Oh my gosh, excuse me. But yeah, I could truly probably talk like another hour about this. But if this is something that you guys like, I will continue maybe on, instead of my personal Instagram, on the podcast Instagram, posting cooking tips and posting how we grocery shop, and kind of keeping track of money in that way, and just like I said, buying ingredients that are going to take you farther in different meals, and that are multi-versatile for different meals. And yeah, together we're just going to be little homemakers. And I love that. Maybe that should be the next merch that we do. It's like Homemaker Era. But all right, I was gonna say that's all we have time for, which I always used to laugh like when we would say that, but I have other stuff to do and I did not anticipate talking for an hour and a half. So with that, I love you guys. Please DM me. Please like reach out to me if you have any questions. If you're like, hey, you said you were gonna post this recipe and you didn't, hold me accountable. Other than that, I'd love to hear from you guys. Oh, maybe leave a rating and review. Maybe could be cool. I'd like if you could do that. But yeah, if you're new, leave a rating and review. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.